Okay, because I hate videos that talk you to sleep before they ever get started, we're going to get straight to the meat and potatoes of this thing. We are replacing the park neutral safety switch on a 2010 Toyota Camry. This is the LE model, 4-cylinder, 2.5 liter. This is automatic transmission. That's important to know because the backup light switch is different on the manuals. So if you're watching this video to learn about this, this is automatic. A couple things you need to know to start off with this. First thing you're going to have to do is remove the air filter box, which I've already done, and I'll touch on that here in just a second. But also, before you get started, you want to make sure the vehicle is in neutral and stays in neutral the entire time you're doing this, and is in neutral when you put the new switch back on. You also have to make sure that everything goes back on aligned exactly how you took it off, or else you may run into some issues with your backup lights coming on when they're not supposed to, or staying on when they're not supposed to. But the whole reason we are replacing this park neutral safety switch today is because backup lights are not working. I've narrowed it down to what I believe should be the problem, and that being the switch. So we're going to get into that. All right, like I said, the first thing you're going to do is remove the air filter box. Remove this top piece, and you're just simply going to unscrew this clamp right here, and it will pop right off of this part here. You've also got 2 electrical connections that will need to come off. This right here will go to your mass airflow, which of course is right here. This other connection will go to this right here. I do not have all the terminology because I'm not a master mechanic, so feel free to laugh at some of this. It will not offend me because I already know I'm an idiot. All right, once you remove the top half of the air filter box, got the bottom half. It's just held on by 2 bolts here, which connect down in there. You will need a long extension for your 10mm ratchet to get down in there. I didn't have one, so I used a bunch of short pieces and made a daisy chain. Worked just fine. You'll also have this connection here going down right there. Now when I removed this, the stripping, insulation stripping, weather stripping, whatever you want to call it, that was around the end of this was shot, dry rotted, falling off, so I took it off and I put some new stuff on there. And now the important question, which is why you're here: where is the park neutral safety switch? Well, let's just show you. All right, this is it right here. There's a hose, which you can see, which is in the way. I've undone this clamp that holds it, as you can see, so we can move that out of the way. So now we can get a much better view of this safety switch. All right, it's got 1 electrical connection, which is right here, and that is attached to the switch. So we're going to have to remove this control arm. It just has 1 bolt and connects to this arm here. I don't know the technical term for that. Can't help you there. You'll have to talk to a real mechanic. 2 quick items of note. As you can see, the inside of my box, my air filter box here, air filter has already been removed. Just the way I am, if I'm going to go through all of this headache of doing all this, I'm putting in a new air filter. So I've already thrown away the old air filter. The inside of the box is pretty dirty. It's pretty dusty. Had some butterfly parts in it. Not sure how butterfly got in there, but it did. A few pieces of leaves, that kind of thing. I hosed it out, cleaned it out good. Nothing wrong with that. Let it just make sure it dries out good before you put it all back together. And then you can resume getting back down to what you're here to do. All right, now that the location of the part's been located, there's the actual part we'll be putting on. You can see it's got a bolt here on each side. and has the blue marking. And I can only assume that's to make sure you line it up exactly correctly. All right, I've just loosened up the bolts on the control arm, and that's a 12mm socket. So that's gonna pull right off. And I was very careful to make sure everything was still in location. This arm here will move on you, and that will show your shift between drive and your neutral while you're messing with it. So you got to make sure you double check your gears, and you can see it. You can see it on the mid console where your gear shift is, whether or not you put it out of neutral. So make sure you stay in neutral. All right, next thing we're gonna do is just remove those 2 bolts and slide the new part in there. All right, I've loosened these bolts, and I just detached the electrical attachment here. It's got a little tab. If you push that down, it'll raise the lever that hooks on, and that'll let you pop it right off. So we're going to finish pulling out these bolts and then remove the new part. And correction, remove the old part, because you don't remove the new part until you have the new part in there to begin with, and hopefully you don't ever have to remove the new part. All right, we got the new one in place now. Just tighten down the 2 bolts that hold it. And one thing I figured out while I was working on this, because a couple of things shifted on me, the reason that blue line is here, if you go over here to the old part, which I still have sitting here beside me, you got this little inner wheel that will turn on you on the new part when you're putting it in. So if you go back to this new part, at least the way mine came, you've got the blue line, and it's also marked on the little inner clock there. So it makes sure it stays lined up. So just pay attention to those 2. And I also bumped the little gear shifting arm while I was doing that and knocked the car into drive, which is no big deal because I caught it and put it back in neutral, which is just as simple as this. Like right now it's in neutral, now it's in drive because I pushed it. Now it's back in neutral. So if you happen to accidentally bump that, make sure, double check you're back in neutral before you go and put your control arm on, which now we're going to do. I don't know if I mentioned it, but these 2 bolts here and the other side there, 10mm. All right, so just got everything back together, and for the bottom part of the air filter box is there. Got your bolt right there, and then one more back here. And then just put your top part on. Don't forget your filter. Got 1 bolt here. One back over here on the other side. Right there. Got my connections together right there on the mass airflow and back here. And tighten down that screw right there. It's all back in place. And that concludes that. So I would definitely welcome any feedback if you have any, and feel free to subscribe to this channel if you like. It'd be a waste of time because this is the only video on there, but hopefully you will have some information now that I did not have and had to scrape for. So that's why I did this video, hopefully to save somebody the time and effort that I had to go through. Y'all have a good one.